Hey guys, still here. Happy Monday, or at least that's what it is today. Start of the week, so we're gonna have another war room, and I thought I'd fill you in on the whole situation that's going on with the lawyer. I talked about this last week, about the guy that was very unhappy with me sending a free invite, or an invite to a free workshop of mine, which, in case you're not familiar with what I do besides YouTube, it's body language coaching. I train people on how to use body language for everything ranging from sales to negotiations to dating and stuff. I sent a lawyer a free invite to a workshop in a sense of, hey dude, you want to join? It's a free workshop for lawyers, and if you want to bring someone from your firm to accompany you so you can discuss it afterwards, then perfect. Nothing too salesy in that regard. And this guy came back to me with the message saying, look, you are in violation of Telecommunications Act, this and that, and do pay me 40, or within 48 hours, I need you to pay me 125 euros, I believe it was, for violation of the law and for damages caused. Now, when I didn't pay, the guy threatened to then sue me. And I didn't respond to that either, but what I did do was find a lawyer who was able to help me out. And of course, just after I completed recording the War Room last week, in the afternoon I got a call from one of the law firms that I presented at recently. I gave a presentation there and they were so happy about it. This guy is such a fan of both me and body language that he offered to represent me as a lawyer in return for another free workshop or for another training. So I said, yeah, absolutely. And now he's in contact with the guy that's suing me. The interesting bit here is that I already sent in a complaint to the Bar Association, and this means that the bar is going to forward my complaint to the lawyer. The lawyer gets, I believe, 3 weeks to reply, and then the dean or the bar association comes out with a reply to both parties and potentially punishes the lawyer. Now, the day after I recorded the War Room last week, something else interesting happened. I had sent him an email saying, look, there are absolutely no damages in the sense that you haven't suffered any damage. It's not like I drove into his car. I mean, that's actual damage. And one of my family members was a judge for, I believe, 30 or 40 years, and he also looked at the case and he said, "No, this is absolute nonsense." And he drafted a response that I could send to this lawyer. And this happened before I actually contacted the guy who is now representing me. So timelines are all a bit in overlap there. Anyway, what happened is that, and this is where the stuff gets really, really golden. What happens is that the lawyer who's suing me came back with an email saying, well, actually, I do have damage. I have material damage. I was like, okay. Material damage. Watch this. I don't mean war game, by the way, but that happened to overlap. Material damage, his material damage, was not only his time, which I would believe is immaterial damage, but okay, it is, at least it's something measurable, insofar as you can consider reading and then pressing delete on an email measurable. But no, his material damage was that his equipment wears out faster. Yes, he is charging for mouse clicks. Instead of just using one additional mouse click and being rid of the email or not even replying at all, he is now spending much more time and many more keystrokes replying to emails and potentially drafting letters, using the phone and all sorts of other stuff that I would believe you could say is causing him even more damage. But his most normal response, of course, would have been to just ignore the email. He also said that material damages lay in the sense of the lost bandwidth. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have a bandwidth cap on my address or my place of living. So for a law firm to have a bandwidth cap, I'd say that's even less likely. How likely is it that the telecom provider that he has, the company that provides his internet, his ISP, regardless of exactly what company that is, how likely is it that they're suddenly going to charge him, I don't know, €1 more for receiving one more email? I mean, what's an email really? Half a megabyte? Something like that? If that? I think it's less. Way less. But yeah, those were his damages. I didn't reply to that email any further, as I let my lawyer handle the thing. But it's just ridiculous. This guy is only making a bigger jerk and a bigger fool out of himself in the process. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, Saturday I got a delivery. And no, this wasn't any sort of neurogas or whatever. No, I got a bunch of flowers from the guy. I got a bunch of flowers saying apologies for the mess, basically. But the thing is, I hadn't actually received any email of him saying, hey, I'm going to drop the suit and sorry about the whole mess. Nothing explaining the deal. He just didn't say anything. All he did was send me flowers. Which, of course, doesn't particularly impact me. I mean, my girlfriend was happy with it, but yeah, flowers. So the timeline that I had worked out is that those flowers were a response to my sending in my complaint to the Bar Association. I sent in the complaint on Monday. Then, on Wednesday, I got a reply. And on Wednesday, and this is the reply from the Bar Association, not the lawyer. On Wednesday, the Bar Association probably also sent out the letter to this lawyer saying, hey, we received a complaint. And receiving a complaint from or to the Bar Association is pretty serious. If you get a complaint there, then it can have various different consequences, depending on how serious the bar thinks it is. So he might have thought, oh, this guy's not just threatening with going to the bar, but he actually did it. I'm not exactly sure if that is his thinking, but it might be. It very well might be. Because that would fit the timeline. Whereas just receiving flowers out of the blue, without any communication to my lawyer, because at least my lawyer hadn't communicated to me that there has been any contact between the two of them after, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday. It's just felt out of the blue. Like, the guy all of a sudden decided, oh yeah, you know what, let's send him flowers. But if you look at it from the timeline of, hey, I just got a complaint from the bar, that might have been something. But for me, the situation still very much isn't resolved, because I still have not gotten any guarantee that he is not suing me. Now, I'm not losing any sleep over it, because I still don't think that he's too serious about it. But what is happening is that, for me, this case is still very much open. It's still very, very much in process. And we'll just see how it ends. And hopefully, by the War Room next week, I'll have a better idea of how everything's going. What I can tell you is that the whole thing is awfully distracting. It's like I told you last week, if you followed that War Room, it brings about a sort of physiological response, like, what the fuck, I'm getting sued? You go into a sort of fear response, like, oh god, what's this? And while this isn't too much of a problem, in the sense that it's not very likely to cause all sorts of mayhem, it does keep me busy. It does keep me, well, I'm not going to say entertained, but it draws attention. It causes a strain on my time. And for that reason, I was just lounging on the couch last week, and I was thinking, okay, I want to do something entirely different. Something that just doesn't use my brain, or that doesn't give my brain any time to think about something like this at all. So, I opened up my Duolingo app, which, in case you're learning a language, you might be familiar with. Duolingo allows you to learn a new language for free. And it can be any of the common languages. I believe you can even learn Irish through it, so with all respect to Ireland, but that's one of the lesser spoken languages. So I opened up the app, decided to learn a bit of Swedish out of the blue. Bloody hell, that is different from the more Latin/Germanic languages that I'm used to. That is very different. But anyway, if you are feeling at some point overwhelmed, or you just want to get away from it all, you want to give your brain a complete distraction where it really needs to focus on something else, try going to either Duolingo.com or get the Duolingo app and just start learning a language. If you've always wanted to be able to speak a bit of Russian, have a look at that. Because stuff like that does get your brain to completely focus on something else, making it so that you don't have to think about the thing that you are trying to avoid. So, feel like doing something like that, learn a language. I don't really care what language that is going to be, so long as it entertains you, so long as it interests you, and so long as you think, hey, okay, this is something that I really need to think hard about. Anyway, what else happened last week? Steel Division, the closed beta. Unfortunately, we are still behind an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. That means I cannot tell you much, if anything, about it. Everything about it is top secret. So, as much as I would like to talk about it, this war room, as much as I would like to discuss it in separate videos, there is nothing that I can really say about it without risking a second trial. So, hopefully the NDA is going to be lifted soon. I think that after this closed beta test we might see another one. Maybe they're going to do an open beta test, and hopefully then there won't be an NDA. So hopefully then we'll be able to get you some footage, get you some recording, get you some gameplay. What I can tell you is that it's, especially if you haven't played Wargame, it's going to be a bit of a learning curve. It's going to be a bit of a learning curve. It is, especially was for me. I'm familiar with Wargame. It plays different. That's all I'm going to say about it. It plays different. You're going to have to adjust your thinking. And it's definitely an interesting game, but you're going to need to give yourself time to get used to it. Especially after I lost with, I believe I lost, I think, about 4,000 points that game, and I got 2,000 points in one game. So, yeah, my tactics need to change. But hopefully, if the data is accurate, the game is going to be launched by May this year, which is only 2 months from now, or even less, depending on which date in May they're considering. If that's the case, then hopefully we're going to be seeing some footage through April, as they're trying to get more YouTubers involved in promoting the game. And if that's the case, then, well, I'll be covering it very, very soon. There's definitely a lot of terrain to be covered, and I hope to be able to provide you with a few tutorial videos on it, the same way that I've done for this game. Because it is not a game that you just pick up, you play, and you completely understand. Absolutely not. Anyway, more things. Wargame themed games. This is Wargame Red Dragon, of course. I put up a video last yesterday, about Desert Storm, or at least Desert Storm-ish. Now, in case you didn't get that video or you didn't watch it yet, it's a game where I teamed up with another player against 3 AIs. Now, the AIs were equipped with various, I suppose you could call them Iraqi decks. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but what I tried to do was recreate a part of Desert Conflict, or Desert Storm. So, the 1991 war. And that means that I was playing the US. I played a US pre-1985 deck, which isn't entirely accurate, being in 1991 Desert Storm, so you would have a lot more different units than I had in this game. but it's the fast way to do it. I just didn't feel like getting into the armory and manually selecting every single unit, trying to see if it was going to be viable, if it was going to be fitting into the time frame or not. But I got a pretty positive response from you guys saying that you want more of these games. So I'm considering organizing a bit of an event or more of these themed games anyway. So we can have, for example, Vietnam themed games, or somebody suggested an interesting theory or an interesting situation where the EU, for example, or the rest of the world as a greater whole was so fed up with Trump's talk that that the world was basically going to declare war. So it's going to be a free-for-all against the US. That could be an interesting one. So that's going to be, in wargame terms, not a confrontation game, but I think a blue on blue, something like that. Not exactly sure what the proper phrase is for it, but something along those lines. And what you can do there is, for example, have the UK, Germany, and the Netherlands, and I don't know, France go up against a couple of US decks, which gives you engagements or encounters that normally don't happen. Not in wargame anyway. Usually it's just red versus blue. So I might be doing something more like that, and if I have any solid dates, any solid things that you can note down for when you could be online watching a stream or playing it yourself, then I'll definitely post that on the channel. For now I don't have any of those yet, but we'll be seeing, or I'll be looking at dates and see if I can organize something like that. And finally, a bit of politics. Dutch elections were last Wednesday. It was touch and go, I can give you that much. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of the guy called Wilders. This is one of those extreme right-wing, what do you call the term? What's the phrase again? Populist politics, or populist politicians. So he's a different form of politician in the sense that he doesn't have any clear-cut plans. He doesn't seem to have any way of actually governing the country, short of just blowing all the other plans of all the other parties out of the water. Most of the time, that seems to be his strategy. That seems to be the thing that's going on, which is not entirely fair, especially if you're just there to critique and you don't actually have a plan to how to improve things yourself. So, the fear was that his party was going to be the biggest. Fortunately, that didn't happen. Fortunately, his party only got a smaller percentage of votes. Now, the way that it works in the Netherlands is that we have the parliament, which consists of the... how do you put this? Let's say there's a group of 150 MPs, so members of parliament, who are elected by the people. You can vote for any of the, by now I think 20 parties, something like that. We have an absolute alphabet soup of parties that you can pick from. And the bigger percentage of votes these parties get, the bigger their share in parliament will be. So the more MPs they can field, and then it becomes an issue of, okay, which party can work with which party. So if you have two, let's say, center-wing parties, then these parties can usually get along well enough so that they can form a government together, which means that in parliament they're going to have more than half the seats. So of the 150 people that are in parliament, let's say 76 to 77 are going to be members of parliament of these two parties combined, and that forms the government. That's, in layman's terms, pretty much what happened. Now, customary is that the party that gets the most amount of votes is the one that gets to start forming the government, that gets to start talks with various different parties and seeing which ones will work. If it would have been his party, then we'd have a populist government. And his statements were pretty severe, in the sense that he said, okay, close the borders, leave the EU, and basically kick out most of the Muslims. Total discrimination in that regard. Just get rid of them, get them out of the country. And of course, the rest of the country was very concerned about this, in the sense that, look, if he wins, that is not just going to be a terrible party taking power in the country, it's also going to be a very, very bad reflection of the country on the rest of the world. It's going to be an awful way of showing off what the Dutch will have become, I suppose you could say. Because most of the time, the Dutch, as far as I'm concerned, are known as a tolerant, open-minded people. And then this clown comes along and just comes out with all of these statements saying, oh, Islam is terrible, we need to close the borders, immigrants are causing terrorism, blah, blah, blah. It's usually much, much more diverse, or much more complex than this guy makes it out to be. But everything for votes, of course. Unfortunately, whereas the expectation was that this guy was going to get 35 out of 150 seats, he only got, I think, 19 or 20. So the damage in that regard was severely limited. And hopefully he will not be a part of the government. And for the different parties to form a government, that usually takes anywhere from, let's say, 8 to 12 weeks, if they are in any form of agreement. Sometimes it takes a bit more, but hopefully we're going to be seeing another government being formed sometime by, I don't know, May, July at the latest, I hope. So that's a bit of politics, and now you hopefully have a bit of a better understanding about how the Dutch political system works. It's different, for example, from the British one, or the French one, or the US for that matter. Anyway, that's about it for the War Room. The game that you're watching, or may have been watching in the background, will be presented as a separate video. You can expect that one up Wednesday. And tomorrow we're going to be doing a bit more XCOM, as we still have an alien invasion to fight off. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the War Room. I will keep you posted on the whole lawyer thing. Thank you for all of your support, all of your outrage, and all of your legal assistance in that regard. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you're going to have a good week. Thank you for watching. Have a good one, and I'll see you soon for more videos.